Hey guys, Tom Barton here from TomBartonSports.com, and it's time for my basketball previews. We're going to start with the ACC this year. Look, I got a lot of feedback last year, and I absolutely love that you guys gave me all kinds of comments, and you loved it throughout the entire year. You kept going back to the videos. Please make sure that you do so again. Comment below, hit the like button. Let's have an interaction. If you want to get in touch with me, go check me out at TomBartonSports.com or check me out, Tom Barton Sports, over on Twitter, TomBartonSports@gmail.com if you'd like to do that as well. So without further ado, let's get into the ACC conference. A little bit about me, obviously. Look, if you've been paying attention to me, you know, but I've lived in the Triangle, right? I lived there for a couple of years. So the ACC is near and dear to my heart. My wife is actually a Florida State alumni. So I tend to pay attention to the ACC just a little bit more than everybody else. The ACC has been very good to my wallet as well, but the ACC has been one of these conferences that is now going through very much a transition. I mean, I've been at ACC championship games and the conference tournaments, and it's always seemingly the same, or it had been the same feel. Not anymore. Big-time coaches are gone, new faces, new places, so we're going to get into all that. But I think that this ACC season is a little bit more about defense than we're used to as well, especially the bottom tier teams. Their defensive prowess is something that I think we're going to be talking about throughout the course of the season. We do have, like I said, new coaches everywhere, and we do have new faces, so you're going to have to get acclimated to the new league. Last year, only 5 teams got bids into the NCAA tournament. The ACC, though, they outperformed everybody, right? I mean, they did great in March. We know, obviously, 3 teams went to the Elite 8. We know about what North Carolina did. The conference now has more than 20 players in the top 100 recruits in the country. So the new infused enthusiasm in the youth is going to be there and on full display. Conference, though, like I said, let's address this. It's not what it once was as far as name recognition in the coaches' side. Obviously, look, North Carolina has a different coach and seamless transition. But now you got, that's with Hubert Davis. But now you got John Shire. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit weird not seeing Coach K on the sidelines. Leonard Hamilton is going to be 74 years old. Jim Larinaga is into his 70s. Jim Boeheim is closing in on his 80s. This is a league that is going to look quite different down the road, but maybe not this year. Who's on top? Again, it's going to be the North Carolina Tar Heels. North Carolina last year went 15-5 in the ACC. They lost to Kansas in the national championship game after losing that big lead. They lose Brady Manick. He was huge, right? Big, not only huge, but he was huge for the team. He's gone. Garcia's gone. Walton is gone. So they lost some guys. Leaky Black, we know what's going on with him. And they bring in Pete Nance. Pete Nance about 15 points per game. You look at guys like Trimble and Nickel. They have guys coming in. This isn't the same just automatic team going back and forth, and they're losing some big-time players. But I think that we have enough confidence down Hubert Davis to say that they shouldn't lose too much. 4 starters are returning. I don't care if you're losing a big player, and they are. I don't want to downgrade what Manick was, but they are returning 4 starters. What is really impressive is that you look at what Davis does and how he uses this team and utilizes this team. He doesn't use the bench. And he doesn't use the bench because he likes defense. North Carolina has had problems defensively for the better part of a decade, right? I mean, it's the running gun. We're going to score 85, see if you could score 86. I mean, that was the North Carolina way. He's not even playing bench guys, so he's kind of playing just the starters. He's got 4 of them returning. Will that bench play hurt them later on? It might. I don't have North Carolina having too much problems during the regular season. I also, right now, don't have North Carolina winning a national championship either. So maybe down the road that will hurt. Virginia's a team that I have made money on time and time again. Virginia's a team that I enjoyed time and time again. I like their style of play. I like defense. I like the slow pace. Call me crazy. I like it. I like Tony Bennett as the head coach. Last year, we all knew Virginia was going to have a down year. We understood it. They go into the NIT. They didn't look very good. They struggled to start the season off. It caught a lot of people by surprise, but nobody that listened to this video did it catch by a surprise. They missed the NCAA tournament. Yeah, that was a bad situation, and it's the first time in 9 years that happened. I expect Tony Bennett to come back and look good. Look, down the stretch last year, I think that he found some stuff. I think that he found what he was looking for. They are returning the top 6 players from that team, so Yeah, the new players are going to be impactful, but how impactful? I think it's more the progression of what they look like later in the season as opposed to what they look like earlier in the season. It wouldn't shock me if they were battling out for an ACC championship once again. Reese Beckham is kind of that guy, right? Reese Beckham beyond the arc. He's got to be that guy. This is a team that plays a slow pace, so you have to have the efficiency, but it's also really relying upon that one three-point shooter. Every time Virginia has had that team, they've had that one guy from the outside. It just drives people crazy, gives you headaches. Well, Reese Beckham might be that guy this year. I mentioned Duke, obviously. Okay, they had a great team last year. They're losing Paolo Banchero. They're losing Moore. They're losing Willis. They're losing Griffin. They're losing Keels. They're losing everybody, right? Including their head coach. Don't think for a second that this is going to be just a seamless transition like Hubert Davis said. Jon Scheyer's a good coach, good guy in the spot, sure, but this is still Coach K, and you lose him. 32-7 they went last year, 16-4 in the ACC. Final Four team. Yeah, we get it, man. Duke is going to be excellent this year again, but how excellent, right? They're basically starting all over, all new. It's not like new guys are coming on and they're just going to remember the things that Coach K taught them. Jeremy Roach, if he's going to be the one guy that you return, yeah, we're good with that, right? Jon Scheyer is taking over from a legend. And when you take over from a legend, you're not usually going to get the benefit of the doubt. I think Duke can be a good team this year. I just don't know how good. Look, they're very, very young. We know how young they're going to be. And sometimes that youngness grows up as you get on. And I think that they will be better in March than they will at the beginning of the year. They added top 3 overall prospects in the recruiting class. They reclassified a top 20 recruit. We get that these guys are going to start coming in and they're going to contribute. I don't think that this is Duke's year, though, because they are too young. And if Coach K was leading this young team, maybe I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. But I got to see. You got to prove it to me. I said it last year to Hubert Davis. Prove it to me. He did. Let's see if Jon Scheyer could do that. Virginia Tech as a team, 23-13 last year, 11-9 in the ACC. They lost in the field of 64 to Texas Tech. No slight there. It was a good team. Justin Mutz probably should have been the ACC Player of the Year. We get it, but you know what? They got Aluma here coming back. They have new starters all over the place. Mixon is going to be an upgrade, people are saying, over Murphy. I don't know. I think Virginia Tech is going to be that team again. Middle of the pack, not quite top 3 team, but they can cause some noise. They'll get into the tournament. They'll be that feisty team in the tournament. I don't see big things from Virginia Tech this year. Miami, I didn't see them going to the Elite Eight. They lost to Kansas in the Elite Eight. I didn't see this going on. I didn't see Jim Larinaga doing this. I don't see it again, but take it for a grain of salt because I said I didn't see it last year. The roster turnover, it should still be able to stay with that style that Miami has, which is smaller lineup, up-tempo, let's go. It's no longer this prodding Miami team. I just don't like the turnover in any situation. I certainly don't like the turnover with a guy in his mid-70s that kind of had a flash season last year. I think that everything just fell right for Miami last year, and I don't think that happens again. Florida State finished 8th in the ACC at 10-10. They had just a bad year. Now, Leonard Hamilton comes in, and he's got a lot of turnover. It's a brand new team. I think it's going to take some time for Florida State to figure out. And I'm not sure if they completely figure it out. Now, look, we know they're going to have big, tall guys, right? They got a 7'4" senior, and McLeod, he's returning. They got Worley, they got Mills. They have some talent returning, but they are losing a lot. And when you're a Florida State team that relies upon consistency in their system to get things done as opposed to just pure elite talent, yeah, they're going to get a lot of rebounds late in the season. They'll probably lead the ACC in rebounds again. Yeah, they're going to get better as the year goes on, but I don't know if Florida State is going to take that next jump up, and that next jump up is to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league, which we've seen them be that recently, right? I just don't think that they're quite there this year. Same thing with Notre Dame. It wasn't a bad year by Notre Dame by any stretch of the imagination. They tied for second in the ACC at 15-5. They lost to Texas Tech in the round of 32. I would say Mike Bray had a very successful year for Notre Dame. I think he probably goes back to the tournament, but they did lose a lot, and it is a style of play that I don't particularly love during the regular season. They are a tournament team that gets hot, and all of a sudden you're buying into them. And Bray is a good coach, but over the course of a long season in a tough ACC, to me, I don't think they finish 8th. They could be a top 5 team, but their ceiling is top 5. The bottom could fall out on them. Wake Forest, 5th in the ACC last year. Then they lost in the NIT quarterfinals. Couldn't really get anything done. Look, they moved a lot of players. They moved on to the next level, the incoming class. Yeah, they got some talent, but they're just not going to be what they are going to be. I think the Demon Deacons peaked last year. That was their successful season. I expect not a small, but a large step back from Wake Forest. If you're going to tell me, and this is what often sportscasters do, they go, well, this team's going to be better. Then who's going to fall? Well, Wake Forest is my team that's going to fall. Not completely off of the map, but they're not going to have a good season. Certainly not what we watched last year. Another team that I think is going to fall is going to be Syracuse. Look, they were ninth in the ACC last year, and they're always dangerous when you have Jim Boeheim and Buddy Boeheim, but Buddy's not coming back. Swinder's not coming back. They're not even taking advantage of their next year. So now it's kind of a complete rebuilding. You're completely rebuilding with a guy that's almost 80 years old. The defense was terrible last year compared to what you look at Syracuse, but overall, they just weren't very good. I think the defense certainly gets better because I don't know if they could get worse, but how are they going to score? They're not going to be able to find the scoring ability of Boeheim and Swinder. They're not going to be able to find that guy to kind of step in and be that talent. Not in the ACC. And while I said some teams might get better as March goes on, yeah, I expect the defense to sort of get better, but they're still not going to just magically create a brand new person on this team. So that concerns me quite a bit about Syracuse. Louisville, sort of in the same thing here, right? We know that there's a strong recruiter, and we know that they're going to be able to bring in some players. We get it. And Kenny Payne, his strength and weaknesses, I don't know what he's going to be, but I think that recruiting is going to be what he's going to be able to do. And I think that Louisville's going to be a good defensive team. But that's about it. Once again, I don't really know what we're getting out of the youngsters. And now you have a youngster with a young coach, and you're expecting a lot out of these young kids. Defensively, I think Louisville will be a headache. And I think that Louisville is going to get a couple of games there or during the middle of the season where they upset, maybe a team like North Carolina or Duke or one of the elites or the Virginia. They'll get a big upset or two. People stop buying into Louisville, but at the end of the day, they're too young. He's asking too much from a young team, and we're asking too much from a first-year coach in Louisville to be able to get that out of the young team. Clemson was 10th in the ACC at 8-12, and here we go. A lot of bad luck by Clemson in the offseason. They lost players because of playing time. They lost players because of injuries. It's just Clemson had a bad offseason, and now you're looking at this and you're saying, is Brownwell a guy that should be looking over his shoulder and saying, uh-oh, is my job in jeopardy? And I think, yes, I think that Clemson has a bad season. I think that, these are just injuries that he can't overcome. Even an experienced coach in this conference would have a hard time experiencing any kind of success, and I don't think that Clemson will. So another team on the downturn for me. Boston College was 6-14 in the ACC, tied for 11th. They look bad on paper, every single stat, every single metric. But you watch their games, and they were kind of competitive in some games, right? They were in there in some games. I think they're that gritty team you don't want to play. But at the end of the year, 6-14 seems about right for them, right? I mean, I think the program's moving in the right direction. I think that they have things going. I think that Grant has the ear of these kids, and maybe there is an upset among them. Maybe they win 7-8 games, but I don't expect big things for them. Same thing with Pitt. Pitt went 6-14 as well. How can we expect anything more out of this team? I just don't. Capel basically ostracized his team in the offseason. He said, we need to get better players. And then people just left. Oh, what a shock, right? People in Pitt and the Pitt organization, they know that they're moving on from him. I think it's kind of just the last hurrah, which won't be a hurrah, it will be a whimper. North Carolina State comes in 4-16 as well. This is a team that over the course of the last couple of years, we go, North Carolina State's a dangerous team, right? They're going to put up 80 in some games. They're going to have some fun. Not anymore. This North Carolina State team is on the downside. I don't expect much from them. Look, you do have Big South Player of the Year, DJ Burns, coming in. So that could be something of a little shot in the arm, but I just don't think that North Carolina State has what it takes. I look at Burns and I think that Burns is going to add something, and we're going to hear the name Burns over and over and over, but their recruiting wasn't very good. They didn't really do much in the portal that I really like outside of Burns. Another bad season there. Same thing with Georgia Tech, 5-15 in the ACC. I told you guys last year, after the great year from Georgia Tech the year before, do not buy into this team. Well, they were awful last year, and they're going to be bad again. Recruiting has been a problem last year. Recruiting is probably not exactly their biggest strength, and they need to replace some guys. Look, Georgia Tech, they had their magical run. It was great while it lasted, but make sure that you're not overvaluating them. They'll be on the bottom half of the league, if not on the dead bottom of the ACC. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. That's the ACC preview. In conclusion, I think North Carolina does win a little bit by default. I think Virginia is certainly there. To me, it's a two-team conference. I don't really believe in Duke. I don't think they're going to grow up in time. I don't think the Florida States of the world are ready to take that leap. Neither the same thing with Miami, who I expect to take a little bit back step. If you're looking for the two teams, it's going to be North Carolina or Virginia. I think North Carolina gets them by the edge, but don't be surprised if Tony Bennett has them right in this thing. That's going to do it for me, everybody. Go check me out at TomBartonSports.com. Tom Barton Sports over on Twitter, and enjoy your ACC season.